Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Brothers channel. And today I'm going to be doing a review on the Adidas Harden Stepback 2. So this shoe is James Harden's budget shoe, right? So James Harden, of course, he has the Harden Volume 5, which is coming out, or it already came out kind of on, I guess, adidas.com in the US. They kind of had like a silent drop a little bit. And then, of course, he has the BEs. And then now we got the Stepback. The Stepback line was introduced to us last year with just the regular Harden Stepback. And then now this year that Harden Stepback 2 has just released. It's crazy because this shoe literally just came out. Like when it came out, it was on sale, which is funny because it came out like when it was like Black Friday or whatever. And I got this shoe for like 50 bucks. Normally retail price for this shoe is 80 bucks, which is already very cheap. So if you guys do want to get it, I'll leave a link in the description box. But let's get it started off with the tracciones, right? So just starting off with the durability of the rubber, it's insanely good. Like there's really no wear and tear on it. There's just a little bit of fraying, but it still looks pretty much as good as new. So durability is very good. Even if you're playing on an outdoor court, just like mainly on an outdoor court, you should be fine with this shoe. And the traction was pretty good. I had some times where it would slip a little bit with like a very hard lateral movement, but for the most part the traction was very consistent. It had a very good bite as well. Not a lot of squeak though. Even on my wood floors, it's pretty silent. And then for some reason, like shoes that are very squeaky, they also squeak on an outdoor court. So this shoe didn't really have that all too much. The pattern kind of reminds me of like the Harden Volume 1 and like the Harden Volume 2 kind of like web traction pattern, but actually has like a line, like a little line tread throughout this entire outsole, as opposed to how the actual Harden Volume 1 looks. But you know, the traction was solid in this shoe. As far as the heel to toe transition goes, it feels great. You know, you got a very nice curved shape here in the heel. Look at that. Like what? Adidas usually doesn't do this, but you know, that's a very nice curved shape here in the heel. Then you got a nice curved shape here in the forefoot, which feels great. So you got a nice rocking motion, and look at that, you have a lot of forefoot flex. So it's one of those Adidas shoes that actually feels smooth for heel to toe transition. In some of the shoes that Adidas makes, it's not that good. And sometimes it's a little too stiff, and sometimes it's a little too flat, making it like a slapper, you know, which I'm not a huge fan of. But anyways, in the shoe, it feels very nice and very fluid. All right, moving on to the cushion, right? So they're using full length bounce cushion, and bounce cushion, as you guys all know, is super nice, but they make it super thin here in the Harden Stepback 2, right? So normally in like literally every single Harden basketball shoe that Adidas has made, the court feel is insanely good. You're just really low to the ground. And that feels nice, and of course that is something that I like to have in my shoes, but I feel like it's a little too low to the ground, and it sacrifices a little too much impact protection and a little too much compression. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's a little too thin. In my opinion, I think they should have made the bounce cushion a little bit thicker, maybe like a couple millimeters even, just to improve the impact protection, you know, make it a little bit more bouncy here in the heel and make it have a little bit more compression, right? You know, as you guys know, like I said, bounce cushion is nice, but just because they made it so thin, it's just not that nice, right? So the cushion for me personally was a little bit lackluster. I didn't really get all too much from the cushion, and to make it even worse, the insole is not that nice. You know, Adidas insoles, they usually put like a paper stock, like super thin insole in there, and if you feel the actual struggle board, it's super stiff. So even like underfoot cushioning isn't that nice, right? So if you're looking for something super responsive and very low to the ground, this is a great option. But if you're looking for a little bit more, you know, like if you like to have a little bit of compression, if you like to have impact protection, or that nice feeling that you get from bounce, you know, that nice bounce feeling, you're not really going to get a whole lot from this shoe. All right, as far as the materials go, so the materials for an $80 shoe is actually really nice, right? So it's basically a mesh material throughout this entire upper. And then here on the lateral and medial side, this white part is pretty much like a screen mesh. And to be honest, I'm not really opposed to screen mesh. I don't think it's like a terrible material. It doesn't really feel low quality or anything. And also, like, to me, it doesn't look like super cheap in my opinion, you know? So for the aesthetics of the material and like how it looks pretty premium, and like I feel like they did a really good job. And like here in the forefoot, as you guys can see, like these white bubbles. It's basically just fuse. It helps to reinforce the material, make it a little bit more durable and give you a little bit more support. But also it's just like in places where you need a little bit more support, right? It's not all over the entire forefoot where it would make the material a little bit too stiff in my opinion. So they did a good job in like reinforcing the material where it needs to be reinforced, but on foot it feels really, really nice. So this mesh material is very, very thin, also super soft and conforms to your foot very, very well. And I also like the construction of the entire booty here in the forefoot and in the midfoot, right? There is a tongue, but it's a half booty construction tongue where the tongue is attached to this material that literally is the entire booty here in the forefoot and in the midfoot. So it makes for a better overall one-to-one fit, and it just feels great on foot. And like I said, I mean, if it was just like this mesh material here in the forefoot without any of this fuse, I feel like it wouldn't be supportive enough. But the designer, I feel like he did a good job in like putting these fused materials in strategic places to make it supportive. And then as far as the tongue goes, there's minimal padding, but it's an oversized tongue, so it kind of like goes over the top of your foot, and that feels good. And here in the ankle area, you have a good amount of padding, which feels great in the ankle and here where your Achilles is, right? So for the materials, they did a very, very good job, especially for only 80 bucks. All right, moving on to the fit, I went true to my Adidas size and it fits me like a glove. My toe literally goes right to the edge. There's a little bit of length, just a little bit, but that doesn't justify going down half a size. If I went down half a size, it would be way too short. So true to size, you should be good. Here in the toe box, there's really no dead space or anything. It's a pretty snug fit, so that feels great as well. Going here into the midfoot, because of the half booty construction tongue, it just makes the fit overall really, really good, as opposed to like if it was an independent tongue, you know? And then width wise, I would say it's pretty narrow. So if you have a wide foot, just watch out. I would suggest going up half a size or maybe even a full size. Of course, if you can try the shoe on first, I would 100% recommend doing that. And also the shoe is very, very easy to put on. You know, you got a heel tab here in the heel, you got a pull tab here on the tongue, so you can open up the shoe very, very wide, slide your foot in, tighten up the laces, and you're good to go. All right, moving on to the support and lockdown. So for lateral containment, I had absolutely zero issues. Which is interesting because it doesn't really look like the foam or anything comes up all too much to act as a lateral counter, but here in the ankle area you have an external TPU heel counter, and then here in the midfoot area you have the Adidas logo coming up with like this like plastic material, and you have the screen mesh, so that'll help for containment. Here in the forefoot you don't really have all too much, but this fuse like pod thing here on the material definitely helps to strengthen the material, and I didn't really have any issues with lateral containment, so that's good. Also for lateral stability, there's really no outrigger, but you guys can see how much the midsole protrudes out here in the forefoot, so you have a very, very low base because like I said, the cushion is super low to the ground, and you have a very wide base, so lateral stability was good in the shoe. But one thing that was kind of annoying for me in the shoe was heel slippage, right? So especially at first, you're gonna feel a little bit of heel slippage, right? I feel like maybe it's because the shoe is a little bit stiffer when it's new, but once you break it in, it's not a huge deal, right? Like it wasn't a deal breaker for me. Remember in the old school Adidas basketball shoes? It's not even old school, but like a couple of years ago, Adidas had a lot of basketball shoes where there was a whole bunch of heel slippage, which made it like unplayable for me, right? In this shoe, thankfully that's not the case, but my heel didn't feel fully locked down, which sucks. And that has to do with the padding. The padding literally goes all the way down here into the bottom of the ankle. And that just doesn't provide enough lockdown for your heel, because like the anatomy of the foot, here's your heel, and then your Achilles tendon kind of like thins out, right? So most shoes, the padding is on top of the ankle area, right? So when your heel wants to come out, you know, like for example, in like the Zoom Freak 2, you got a little bit of padding. In the Jordan 35, you got the very, very gnarly Achilles pillow. So that'll stop your heel from coming up in the shoe. But in this shoe, and to be honest, like in a lot of Adidas ball shoes, the padding goes all the way down, right into the bottom of the heel, so it doesn't really lock down your heel, and there's a little bit of heel slippage, and it wasn't completely locked down even if I tightened the laces all the way, so just watch out for that. It's definitely a feeling that you can get used to, But like, you know, I am testing different shoes. So like when I switch back here into the Stepback 2 from like another shoe that has good heel lockdown, I definitely need to get used to the shoe a little bit, you know? All right, moving on to the weight of the shoe. I believe the shoe is around average. Oh no, it's a little bit heavier, right? So it's 13.23 ounces. And that's not like super heavy, but it's also like not light. That probably has to do with the bounce cushion. Bounce cushion is a pretty high density cushion and it adds a good amount of weight. This shoe definitely feels pretty bottom heavy. And also you guys can see that there's a lot of rubber here on the outsole. So the overall weight distribution of the shoe isn't like super balanced, you know. You definitely feel, like I said, a lot of the weight underneath your foot, kind of like Vans or Converse. But for me personally, it's not a deal breaker. I don't like hate that, but to be honest, I like to have a little bit more even weight distribution, like for example in the Curry 8, you know. All right, as far as the ventilation goes, ventilation is really good. You know, this mesh material, like I said, is very thin. As you guys know, mesh materials usually have good ventilation, so when you blow through it, you can definitely feel a little bit of airflow through the material. So your foot isn't all too hot in the shoe, which is a good thing. As far as the aesthetics go, this shoe looks great. You know, it's definitely the best looking like budget Harden in my opinion. And even like comparing it to his main signature line, I'd say it's pretty up there. So whoever designed this, they did a good job. And I also like how it takes inspiration from the Harden Volume 5. So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, for only 80 bucks and even cheaper when it's on sale, obviously, this shoe is a great performer. You know, it's solid. There were some things that I didn't like about the shoe, like for example, it's a little bottom heavy. Also, it's a little heavy, just a little bit heavier than average. And also I did experience a little bit of heel slippage, but for me personally, those aren't like deal breakers, and it didn't make the shoe like unplayable for me, and I can pretty much get over it. And also, like, there are some really good things about the shoe as well. Like the fit was great, support was good, materials were very minimal and thin and comfortable. Cushioning wasn't the best, but you know, I could deal with it, and the traction was very solid and durable. Also, it's a great looking shoe in my opinion, so I feel like a lot of people like this aesthetically. So if you're looking to save money, the Harden Stepback 2 is a solid performer, and I would definitely recommend trying it out. In my opinion though, there are like better budget options though. Like for example, the Renew Elevate. That shoe is only $10 more expensive than this shoe. I feel like that does a little bit better, but this is still a solid option. Anyways, that about wraps up the review. Again, if you guys want to cop this, I will leave a link in the description box. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.